Welcome to my art forum.
It's time for Post-Orthodoxy, a show about changing our minds.
Yeah, baby.
With your hosts, Dark and Ainsley Sevier.
Maybe what they believe about reality isn't all of reality.
What?
I know, right?
We're on a mission to have a better time with more people more often.
The question is more, how do you get there?
Post-Orthodoxy explores strongly held beliefs, how those belief systems divide or connect people, and what might be found beyond those reality bubbles.
Keep calm. Don't lose your head.
I've got a piece of chocolate here with me because I got anxiety about doing this.
Welcome to this neighborhood, neighbor.
Yes, indeed. Welcome to this neighborhood. We're just gonna assume that we came in at the right moment on that song.
Yeah.
Because we couldn't hear it on our end. Sometimes we can hear it on our end, and sometimes we can't. And I've learned that it's still playing for the audience in audience land, and that's what's important. That you guys can hear it. Okay, so welcome to season 2, episode 16 of Post-Orthodoxy. We are chugging right along.
Yeah.
We're doing a week on finance and money and stuff.
Yeah. So
other gobbledygooks.
Post-Orthodoxy, the name means being post-Orthodox.
Yeah.
And a lot of people associate orthodoxy with religious things, Orthodox religions. But we do post-Orthodox religion, we do post-Orthodox politics, post-Orthodox sexuality, post-Orthodox, you name it. Now we're doing a little post-Orthodox finance and economics.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that right?
Yeah. You want to read our disclaimer while I go and turn off the overhead light so you don't have a giant shiny spot on the top of your head?
Post-Orthodox money. Yeah, we just want to let everybody know we do usually do a disclaimer. Viewer discretion advised. If you are watching this from the beginning, if you've caught this part of the show, be advised we might talk about some things that are not normal.
And when you hear something that you're not used to hearing, your hindbrain can react in a way of self-defense because traditionally, or evolutionarily speaking, anytime you don't know what's going on, you might be unsafe.
So sometimes we talk about things, and we may talk about things that are at odds with the way you think the world is, or the way that you believe things. And we want to clarify that the opinions and views expressed on this show by Dark and Ainsley, future or past Dark and Ainsley may not agree with those things.
It's true.
We're changing our minds all the time, bringing in new information. So sometimes people think because we're talking about something that's our belief system and it's our new orthodoxy, and that's just not the way we do it around here.
The point of the show is to go further and further into the
breadth.
Vast and broad, but together in one word for some reason, the vast and broad lands of cognitive liberty and free our minds from being stuck in any one particular spot.
Dogmas, fundamentalisms, orthodoxies.
Anything you're not supposed to ask questions about.
We ask questions about it.
We also have a further disclaimer for today, and I'm sure Damon will reiterate this when we bring him on the camera.
We are not doctors.
We're not. Or financial advisors.
We're not financial advisors either.
That's a different show. Yeah, we're not financial advisors, and neither is Damon. We are here to share information that we've learned and to share information that Damon has learned and pick each other's brains and hopefully be all having a bit of a better time, especially when it comes to finance in these dark, dark times. Would you like to bring our guest on?
Yeah, let's bring on our guest.
Let's bring on our guest.
Special guest.
Introduce himself. Hello, Damon.
Crypto investigator, Damon Taylor. Welcome to the show.
Are you on mute?
Uh-oh.
He was being so polite.
Oh, there it is.
Hello there.
Thank you.
Yeah. Crypto enthusiast, I think, is a good word.
Enthusiast. I like that.
Yeah. So I'm Damon Taylor. You want me to give like a full intro of me?
Yeah, sure. I love that.
Okay. So I grew up in the Midwest. Not from like I didn't think I was poor, but I later found out that I probably was from lower middle class, and I feel like I never really thought about funds at all because most of the time I was living, paycheck to paycheck myself, or, bouncing from job to job, and didn't really have a lot of funds. And what got me interested in cryptocurrency was just a few months ago, like 4 or 5 months ago now. I started digging deeper into it because I had come into some funds, and I wanted to figure out what to do with that money. And putting the money into a bank never made any sense to me, even back in the day, because what am I going to do? Earn like a point of a 5% interest or something silly like that? And
Pointless.
yeah, so I also, the reason that I was able to do the research that I've done, I feel, and dig so deeply, is because I'm a filmmaker and a photographer, and I travel extensively, basically going from job to job. So I've seen a lot of different environments, and I think I was poor. I would say my job in general.
Sorry, stop. Okay, go. Sorry. I opened a tab that I hadn't remuted.
Entered another portal or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like my job in general as a filmmaker is I do a lot of assistant directing. I do a lot of screenwriting, which all involves a lot of really deep research into subjects that maybe I know nothing about, or maybe I know a little bit about. And then my brain works in this way that I'm able to process information, large amounts of information, break it into tiny pieces, see the details, and then also see the big picture, and then reassemble that information into easily communicated bite-sized pieces for, either the reader or for a director or for a producer. And the same thing goes with, scheduling for film. All of this information is, man, I'm doing a great job of describing the information, aren't I?
Break it
I
down.
don't talk about myself this way. Anyway,
Yes.
so the point is, I feel like I have a...
You're
I have,
a researcher.
Yes,
You've
exactly.
been doing, this isn't the first time you've done deep dive research into stuff.
Correct.
A self-educated man.
Yeah, I feel like...
A lot of people think you can't learn unless someone else is giving you the information, but we live in the internet age now, and we can teach ourselves things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know that people kind of joked about YouTube being a space to learn stuff, but it has definitely evolved over the last 5-10 years to be a space that you really can educate yourself.
Yes, absolutely.
Along with reading articles and online classes and everything else that you can find out there. So, yeah.
Okay. So
we need some things broken down.
Wait, before that, let me also say, so I am not an expert in any of this.
Disclaimer.
I told you he'd do his own financial disclaimer.
Yes.
But I feel that what's happened is I've gathered so much information that I now have an understanding of what the cryptocurrency space is, enough that I am a full-time believer now. Like I personally have put the money that I can afford into the space, and I think that it's important to tell other people about it in order so that they can do their own research and they can understand it and make their own decisions about it. I'm not trying to sell anybody anything here, so.
Right. I'm not trying to sell anybody anything.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we've been. I had a roommate in Hawaii who was a gamer and a gambler. And he decided that Bitcoin was a thing. This is back in 2000.
Who is this person? Have we tagged him on this video today?
No.
He's long gone off into the ether?
World. His
pre-internet friend?
His brother was a juggler who worked on my farm. And then the brother came out and just spent all his time in Hawaii in a dark room gambling. And he made about $10 an hour.
Isn't it called mining?
No, he was gambling, actually online gambling. And then he decided to start mining Bitcoins or whatever. This is right at the very beginning of the whole thing.
Okay.
And it seemed like I'd heard talk, and I thought it sounds like a good idea. And friends of mine got in early, and they bought some, Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I guess we're all doing pretty good now.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my friends on Facebook has been mining for like 6 years.
Yeah.
So she's doing really well.
Did she get something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mining and investing. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, just looking
So-
at the numbers, it's like if I had even invested last year.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, this is part of the thing that I have dug up that I have found the most interesting and helpful is that this is a very emotional and psychological space. The market is literally a space where they divide it up into fear and greed. There's actually a fear and greed index that you can look at. and the reason is because it really is based on a lot of psychology and before I get too deep into that stuff, I know that Dark, you were about to ask me to like break some stuff down.
Well, that's the general idea of the show. We're going to break down because I know it's really difficult to even wade into the space, as you call it, the space, and there is a lot of psychology involved.
Right. So, what I think I want to start with, which I think will help the most, is understanding cryptocurrency and just the idea of what is that question. You know, whenever somebody walks up to you and go, they're like, what is cryptocurrency? The problem with answering it is that cryptocurrency is actually really, it's complicated. But if I break it into pieces, I think it'll be much easier to begin to like understand what the parts are. So for me, there are three things that I'm going to dive into first, like what it is. And then number two is like why it was created or why it exists. That'll give another scope of understanding. And then three, how it works. Because I think most people who like go up and they're wanting to know what's Bitcoin or what's Dogecoin, you know, they want you to be able to just lay it all out there, and it's not that simple. So I'm going to start with what it is. And I think starting with the term cryptocurrency, first of all, it's a general term. It's like using the word sports. You know, you're not going to try to explain the rules to boxing by talking about sports.
Right.
You know?
How do sports work?
Yeah. Well, first of all, somebody punches somebody in the head, and then somebody throws a ball into a goal, and those both score points.
Yay!
You know?
Yay, sports ball.
Yeah. So it's I think that the term cryptocurrency is wrong, and it will shift.
You think it's wrong?
Wait.
You think?
It's going to shift into another term, which I use more often, which is a digital asset.
Oh, okay.
Which is to think of these coins more like a property than like money, right?
Yeah.
It's not currency, but the reason that it began to be called some form of currency is because it began with Bitcoin, which was the first of the cryptocurrencies, and it was intended to be a peer-to-peer way to pass stored value that cut out the middleman, right? And the reason that you know, we see that just in our traditional mindset is like, well, if I gave you something and it's valuable, then it's money, right? Where thinking of it as a digital asset, more of like a stock where it's storing value for you and acquiring more value over time is an easier way, I think, to talk about it and think about it. Another thing that cryptocurrency is, or digital assets are, is a form of technology. So it's very similar to thinking about like a tech company or many tech companies. If you're talking about cryptocurrency, you're talking about all of the coins, each one representing a different type of technology. And each one of those technologies has a stated purpose. And that purpose is easily describable. So if you ask me one thing like what is Bitcoin, I would tell you it's a digital asset that is intended to store value, kind of like digital gold, you know? Right. And so and then the last two things I'll talk about what cryptocurrency is that it's a new financial space. And in my mind, it's kind of like the first world market for that anyone with a computer can get into.
So that helps me a lot because I had been operating under the term cryptocurrency for a long time. And honestly, kind of like we all call that plastic stuff you put your food in Tupperware, even though it's not all Tupperware brand, right? Or Kleenex. Like I kind of for a long time before I was really being careful about it, I would just say Bitcoin for everything. because that's like the brand that everybody knows about. And then I realized that cryptocurrency is the umbrella term for all these different coins. That's how I was thinking of it in my mind. And then to be attending the class, the like information sharing sessions that I've been attending, and learning that each of these cryptocurrencies actually they're doing other things besides just being, they're not being money. They're being
new technology.
They're being, what do you mean? Ethereum is creating a space to the something, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. But when you change the initial term from cryptocurrency to digital asset, then that makes space in my brain map for like, oh, and we can have all kinds of digital assets, you know, like, but if you try and call it crypto, I'm kind of like, money doesn't act like that.
Would you consider like a cryptocurrency or a digital asset somehow akin to a NFT or a non-fungible token? Is there some Venn diagram crossover there?
Well, NFTs are, the simple answer is an NFT is a token. It's
Right.
just that, so if you think of Bitcoin has a maximum circulation of 21 million, there are only 21 million Bitcoins that will ever exist, right? They intentionally made it that way so that there is no more that will be generated after 21 million. An NFT is that exact same concept. It's like, I'm only going to make 5 of these. That's it. An NFT is just a minted coin or token that is just made so small that it's intentionally just supposed to limit it so that it's only for a few people. And that it's all operating in the same sphere. The only difference is its purpose is to be either art or some whatever you figure it is in that space. You know, music. I think eventually NFTs will be movies once they figure out that technology as well.
What do you mean?
They'll make a movie and only so many people can watch it?
No. Imagine owning a token that is part of the rights of a movie. That kind of
thing. So then if the movie does well, then your token becomes worth more.
Yep. There are all kinds of things
because it's a store of value.
Yes.
So this is like possibly a new form of crowdsourcing.
It is. In a lot of ways it can be, for sure. And that brings me to the last thing that I believe that cryptocurrency as a general can be summed up in is that it is a community of supporters and that they have a say in this decentralized governance of whatever this token is. So the idea that like you just said, raising funds. So whenever a coin first comes out, before it ever comes out, it is a technology, and a lot of these technologies are trying to solve real world problems, but you don't hear about those because they're not as far.
Did you mean real world or rural world?
No, real world, okay. As in like not in the digital space. They are trying to solve a problem in our physical world through some sort of digital means. And I'll give you a super easy example that I don't know all of the facts to or how to describe it especially, but basically there are coins that are saying we are going to help what they call the unbanked find a financial way to pass value between each other. So there are people in Africa who can't trust their banking systems because of either high fees or corruption or whatever. And they're saying instead, if everyone has a phone, can then pass money to each other, they don't need to worry about that. And their money can't be stolen from them.
So then how, because this has been, and I know we're jumping ahead a little bit, and I want to go back to your nicely arranged, what the heck is crypto? But at some point, we got to talk about like, how the heck do I get money onto my crypto app? And because...
Yeah, we're doing 101 because we've been diving in, doing some research. We talked.
I'm a smart person. I can watch YouTube videos.
Sure. But then when it comes down to it, you're like, I have money.
And I have an app.
How do I make it a digital asset?
Go. make it
and
do
that
the thing.
seemed to be a little more complicated than one might initially think.
Yeah. But let's
go back.
Yeah, let's back
We
up.
want to get to that at some point, maybe in this show.
So umbrella term, digital assets.
Yeah.
Yep. Digital assets, a cryptocurrency is more like sports, that kind of thing. So so that's what those 6 things are. I mean, basically it's a digital asset, it's a form of technology, it's not really a currency. It is a new financial space. It's going to take time, it's going to develop, it's growing, and it is a community of supporters. And if you can think of it that way, then you have the basics of what cryptocurrency is. Then the next question I would like to answer is like, why was Bitcoin specifically created? Why does it exist?
Okay,
right?
and why should we be asking that question?
That's the godfather of. That's because where it all started.
Is the reason that it's the reason that cryptocurrency exists now is because somebody in the beginning said, well, what if we did this instead of what we have, right? So the reason Bitcoin was it was developed in 2008 as an attempt to decentralize finance, which is basically to create a secure peer-to-peer payment method that eliminates the middleman. And the middleman can be banks, it can be governments, it can be anybody in the middle who's trying to make money off the fact that you just have money and want to give it to somebody, right? And this was done as an experiment, and then from 2008 till for probably 2000, let's see, 2014, 13 or 14 or 15, somewhere around there, it was just a hobby. It was just a bunch of nerds, a bunch of tech guys passing these coins around and trying to understand how it works, trying to hack it, trying to figure out what it is actually useful for. And then eventually somebody decided they were going to buy a pizza with it. They bought 2 pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoin.
Oh my Lord. And now 1 Bitcoin is worth $38,000.
Well, the Silk Road was in there somewhere too, right? I mean,
what do you mean?
The Silk Road was
the actual Silk Road?
No, it was a website.
Oh.
Because the original Silk Road was a place where merchants traveled back and forth between places. The Silk Road was a sort of a dark web website where you could buy anything. Heroin, LSD, mushrooms, ecstasy, and crypto became a way to participate in the Silk Road.
Yep. So that is definitely true. But I mean, that again was for the tech savvy people more than not tech savvy. So I don't think you were having a street drug dealer getting on there trying to do stuff. You were having people who already knew what they were doing, just kind of using it as well. So, and I think that's where some of the stigma of it being for criminal activity came from. But over the past 12 years, Bitcoin has grown, I think, because people see the value in taking power away from centralized finance and giving that power to the users. There is a reason that it has grown from 0.0006 cents or whatever it started out as to $40,000. And it's not all just because money and value, a perceived value. It's because there is a technology behind it that people are seeing has a purpose, and that purpose is evolving, which is why I think it's really important to understand where it came from and where it can potentially go to, and these are just potentials. But
so Bitcoin was the first one.
Yes,
Bitcoin was the first one, and it
was invented for fun.
I don't know if it was fun. I think it was a really smart person, which we don't know who created Bitcoin.
Green Day said it's quite likely that person is anonymous. Otherwise, they would be assassinated by the big banks.
Right. That's a possibility. They're anonymous. What they did though was they created it and set it free, and Satoshi Nakamoto is the name, and there's been a hunt for who this person is, and there's been a million guesses, and my personal belief is it doesn't matter unless they are nefarious, which it doesn't seem like they are. And then 2, I believe it's probably a group of people. I don't think it was just one person sitting in their basement going, "What if we tried this out?" I think it was probably some group of really smart people who said, "Let's try this thing," and then, just like other coins, they probably didn't know where it was going to go. I don't think these guys were that genius that they said in 20 years this will be worth millions of dollars. Like,
Huh.
yeah.
Maybe they
Or maybe they did.
were that
Maybe they
smart,
did. Yeah. Maybe. I mean, good on them. I mean, if that's what they did, great.
Maybe Green Day says maybe the Bitcoin creators is how alien invasion happens. Are they going to channel it onto the planet?
I don't know. Well, it seems like Bitcoin is about as close as we've come as a species to the Star Trek monetary system.
Yeah.
I often ask the question, because I'm a futurist by nature. My brain has lived in the future for a long time. And I ask, is it possible that in 100 years, when we definitely have a colony on Mars and maybe have some people, I definitely have a colony on the moon, maybe have some people on Mars, are we really going to be using dollar bills backed by gold, which is not really backed by gold anyway?
Huh.
We're going to have to figure out a new digital system that makes sense on a multi-planetary level as we continue to grow as a species. And there's no reason not to do it. There's no reason to stop the technology now.
I mean, it would be nice if we could here I go. Just like unify the planet.
Well,
not to get too close to one world government and other trigger words, but like it would be nice to I don't want to get rid of beautiful old fashioned, hand painted currencies and stuff, but it would be nice to just make things less painful for everyone. But I think we would have to move away from oil money running the planet in order to actually have any unification happen.
Yeah, this is a whole side conversation, but I will say that, in the first world countries, we're not using a whole lot of cash. It's been slowly going to credit cards and digital payment methods and online payments. There is no reason for cash on a practical level for a first world country, it seems like, at least, again, I'm going to say in 100 years, do you really think we'll be carrying quarters in our pockets? I don't.
I already don't. As soon as I got a debit card, I stopped carrying cash around.
Exactly.
Annoying. And I know other people feel differently.
I'm still addicted to cash just because of habit.
Well, we are in a different age demographic.
It's true. It's a habit.
Yeah. And that's another thing, I think as, kids that are born now grow up with cryptocurrency or digital assets or whatever the next digital monetary system turns out to be, they're not going to question it. They're going to say, "Oh, my mommy has $1 still in her drawer. I look at it sometimes,
She got it stripping.
Yeah.
Yeah, how are you going to do strip clubs with cryptocurrency?
We'll all have a little wrist thing, and you just wave your wrist thing over the tip bar and just go like bloop, bloop, bloop. Okay. And then a little bar lights up that is like,
right.
That's what I'm just imagining this out of the blue right now. It just go bloop, bloop, bloop. And then it like 4 little lights pop up to show how many credits you tipped.
Yep.
Yeah.
All of that is quite possible.
Yeah. I want to have it all on a wrist thing. I want to not have to carry crap. I want to unlock my car with my wrist thing and carry my money with my wrist thing and my social security. I want to vote with my wrist thing. We should be doing it.
This is why they talked about.
This is why we have blockchains.
Wait, you still want a car? I thought you wanted just the Tesla that's going to pull up and take you to wherever you go and then just drive away so you don't have to worry about it.
I'm happy to live through that era, but I actually would prefer if we just jump straight to teleportation.
Yeah, instant teleportation. I'm just going to be cranky until that happens.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right. Before we go too far down this road, let me grab the last thing that helps me explain Bitcoin and just a general idea of what cryptocurrency is. And this third thing is I'm going to describe how Bitcoin works in the most oversimplified explanation so that at least we have an idea of how this technology is operating, right? So When Bitcoin was first released, it was put into motion with a set of rules that cannot be edited and cannot be manipulated. And that was basically that miners are they provide the computers to store all the data. And that includes, that is what creates your blockchain. And that's what creates this public ledger, which then tracks who has what in their wallets, right? That's the simple beginning. In exchange, they're rewarded with quote unquote mined Bitcoin. And so the miners' computers are earning Bitcoin by solving complex math problems. And the first one to figure it out wins. So then a new problem is released and a new coin is then offered up.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
This is why bigger and faster computer systems are being used. And then all owners, this is the last point, all the owners of Bitcoin have voting rights in the governance of this system. But the miners owning more of the Bitcoin have more voting rights, you know? So another thing that was a part of the set rules is that there will be a max supply of 21 million Bitcoin released. And I think the final Bitcoin will be released in like 2140. So like 120 years worth of releasing Bitcoin slowly over a time period.
2140?
And they get harder and harder to
mine
over time, right?
Now this is a friend of the show that I invited to tune in tonight because he's been looking into crypto as well, but was not able to join us. He messaged me on the side and he said one of the things that he's on the team that all of cryptocurrency is an abomination because the energy suck needed to mine and create and store and transfer crypto is on track to ruin the earth worse than driving cars.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know anything about that.
That is what we call FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. I heard you talking about that in the last episode. And
that was Elon Musk. He made a statement where he's like, you can't buy Teslas with Bitcoin until you clean up your act. And then like 3 weeks later, it was like, okay, they did it. Everything's fine. It's not going to be an energy suck anymore.
So Elon gets a lot of flack and also a lot of praise from the crypto community in different directions. And in my mind, he's just a smart businessman who knows how to manipulate things. In my mind, he's super smart because he got Tesla to buy $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin. So we can get into how big companies are getting in and stuff like that later. But he got in at that point, 1.5 billion at like 39,000 or 40,000 or something like that. It went up to 60,000. And whenever that happened, the whole crypto community was like, hooray, we're going up. Big companies are in, right? And Elon's a hero. And then at the end of the quarter, they sold 100 million Bitcoin or $100 million worth of Bitcoin. And everybody's like, I heard a lot of people going, oh my gosh, what a jerk. He's like ruining everything, right? Well, he sold $100 million because for that quarter, the end of that quarter, what they were doing was they were showing a profit on their books. The money that they had put in was from their treasury, and the money that they pulled out showed profit, and it was the highest profit Tesla had ever made in their history of the company, right? And I guarantee you that hasn't come out yet, but they have just put that 100 million back in to Bitcoin. And what he proved was, and nobody talks about this, what he proved was, as a company, you can take a portion of your money, your treasury, which is supposed to be meant to pay bills and sort things out, you can put that into Bitcoin, and then you can take it out just like you would a normal bank and as funds to do whatever you want with, right?
Yeah, Joe Miller, a friend of mine on the East Coast,
don't you know,
is talking about QR technology and like paying for things. Like stores can have like a QR code for your amount that you have to pay, and you can just bloop your crypto and pay that way, I guess. That's on its way.
Yeah, they have McDonald's now that accept Bitcoin, right? Didn't
Although,
I see that somewhere?
now that I'm learning about these different digital assets, it doesn't. I can see how people would think of doing that if you're thinking of it as a currency. Like, oh, we're going to do alt money now, not the dollar, now the digital dollar, you know?
Just going to the 7-Eleven and buying a soda with your
I'm buying
Bitcoin.
this with my fake money in the internet instead of my other fake money in the internet, you know? Like, but when you think of it as a digital asset, you shouldn't actually be buying stuff with it. You should just be hoarding it.
So I'm going to go back to
help.
Purpose of specific coins, right? So Bitcoin is literally digital gold. I won't get into the numbers. It's the top of the food chain because it has the biggest market cap, which means that it has the most money invested in it, which means the most people have trusted this space to store their money, right?
It has the most confidence.
Most confidence in it. There are other coins who are trying to be the next world currency. So those coins are competing to try to be some sort of stable coin that allows everybody to just use it on a worldwide way, right? And there are currencies, cryptocurrencies like Dogecoin, which is a completely different subject. I don't advise Dogecoin as a thing to get involved in unless you've done a lot of research and understand why you're getting into it. But Dogecoin is one of those cryptocurrencies that is being accepted by, there's like a sports team or somebody that, some football stadium or something that's gone out public and said, hey, we're going to accept Dogecoin on our website and you can buy our merch with it. You know, like there are places that you can exchange these coins for real world goods, but those are all tests. This is all just the beginning as far as I'm concerned. It's like everybody's figuring out, well, what is the best way to do this thing? And, you know, I think that I should stop and go back to answer your question about energy first.
Okay, yeah.
Because we got completely sidetracked from that.
Right. Because that's one of the biggest things that I hear against. And then we have some other questions in the comments.
Yeah. So the back to the quick story about Elon and what he's done. Whenever he took that 100 million out and he put it, you know, they made their profit. Tesla is applying for I forget what it's called, but funds from the government for being a green company, right? Stimulus, or I don't know what it's called. What's it?
Oh, anyway. I don't know what it's called, but I understand the concept.
Green New Deal stuff.
So they're applying for those things, and if there was any pressure from anyone, it would be the government right now for him to stop talking about that, or
stop talking about Bitcoin,
about digital assets.
To stop screaming about how great digital assets or Bitcoin is, right? But also there is the ability of Elon knows that he has the power to influence the market at this point, which he would not say that he does because that's illegal, even though it's not regulated. But but by him knowing that he wants to purchase more, or a bunch of people want to purchase more, him saying this negative thing does lower the price. And if you look at, all of this stuff is public knowledge. If you actually look at the trading volume during the time that all of this negative press is coming out, the trading volume's going up, which means that as retail investors, just normal people, are getting scared and selling, someone else is buying. And you have to ask the question, who is buying? And the only people that would have the amount of money to buy these large amounts during the time that the price is dropping would be some sort of institution or these larger companies, or, you don't know exactly who it is, but you can see where that money is going.
So is the price dropping because people are selling, or are people selling because the price is dropping?
It's complicated.
Okay. Yes.
So
I know it's all basically just in our minds and how we feel about these things that's making them have value.
it's a chain reaction. So what happens is the if some bad news comes out and the somebody at the top sells, then bit by bit it just keeps dropping. And the reason that the actual price goes down is because people are willing to sell it at a lower and lower price. So whenever you buy or sell Bitcoin, you have the ability to um, not on the apps, but on some of the more professional sites, you can set your limits. You can say, I want to sell my Bitcoin for, or I want to buy a Bitcoin for $30,000. But if no one in the market is willing to buy it or sell it to you for $30,000, then you won't sell it, right?
Right.
And so
I remember my grandma doing this with stocks in the olden days, is she would set up things ahead of time on her computer so that if some of the stocks she was interested in got to a certain low level, her computer would automatically buy them for her, even if she was like asleep in bed.
Right.
Yep, exactly. And so I mean, not to get too deep into the market stuff, but yeah, that's what happens. So I think for the energy thing, right? Elon says, you know what? I don't want to do this. He also owns an energy company, right? He owns a company that creates solar panels, that is working with batteries on a large scale. They're trying to figure out, or maybe they have already figured out, how to make these batteries store enough power for cities and things like that. They're looking large scale because they want to use all this stuff on Mars, right? So they're trying to figure out the math. And the only way to do these big steps is to have this stuff funded, right?
You have to have a challenge for somebody to rise to it.
Yep. And so what I believe he's done is he put it out there. Look, I can't do anything with Bitcoin until they figure this thing out, which, by the way, all of that information is not true. Bitcoin is not using the energy that it is stated. I can show you some information on that too. But his point was, I think, his point in saying all this is that I don't know if you've heard, but recently the governor of Texas basically came out and said, you know what, we're looking at bringing mines into Texas.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder how we're gonna handle all that power and how we're gonna do all this stuff. They have the highest wind and solar power in the U.S. They also have Elon is based in Texas. His company is based in Texas. There are things happening behind the scenes. And then, like you just said, he's going to come back out, or if he has, I don't know if he has already, but he's going to be like, yeah, okay, fine, Bitcoin's fine again.
He
Sorry,
did.
everyone.
He did.
Like a week
He just
ago or
did.
something like that.
It's all just a big head game, and I feel like.
So Elon Musk was the person that said, "Oh my God, Bitcoin's killing the planet."
He said he was going to stop taking Bitcoins for Teslas until they figured out their energy sucked.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
and then he said,
but,
now we're good.
But then you're also saying, Damon, that the energy suck stories have been verified to be false.
I'm not going to use that terminology.
Okay.
I'm going to say that the news is really bad at putting out the real facts, I would say. So I'll give you an example. So China had the largest amount of Bitcoin mines for a while, and it actually worried a lot of people. But recently, China has decided that they're going to make things difficult on the miners, and now miners are evacuating China and trying to relocate in other countries, right? And the problem with China was that a lot of those mines were using coal because that's their biggest provider of energy, and some of those were using illegal coal from places that had supposed to have been shut down, but weren't, because they were they were going through the Chinese government to create the stuff, right? That's all just part of it. A majority of the Bitcoin mines, think about it economically. If you have to pay a lot of money to use your energy, you're not going to make as much money if you use green energy, which is cheaper, right?
Wait.
Your profit goes up if you use a cheaper energy source, because all of their expenses basically go into the technology of, the miners and everything, or
Right.
the mining machines.
So it's
or
motivational. It's motivational to try to use a
Yeah.
less expensive energy source.
Yep. Now let's extrapolate that into the not too distant future and say, I bet you that this is actually going to be a giant motivation to go even deeper into green energy resources, because now there's a video I can share that explains all this better than I can, but it's basically like there is a problem with power coming from green energy, like the wind power and the solar power, is that we only use power in spikes. They call it the duck curve, right? And whenever we're not using that energy, they have to store it somewhere. Or if you have mines that can only run in the off times, you're actually able to fund that company for producing energy even when they don't need it, right?
So on this subject, Mark French says Texas just had a blackout that killed a lot of people just because it got cold, and now it's going to have blackouts that kill people because it's hot. Anybody should be skeptical of Texas policy, which I believe is a logical fallacy. But let's go with that argument and talk about it, because is the governor of Texas anybody that we should be looking to for advice? Just because it's a logical fallacy, because just because somebody screwed up in one place does not mean they're screwing up in all the places. But it's worth bringing up.
The power companies have interest in making money, so they're going to find a way to fix it, I would imagine. I mean, there's a capital incentive to get on top of it.
I only know a little bit. I mean, I've heard of this stuff. I know a little bit about it. I will say this, like, I feel like that cryptocurrency did not create that problem in Texas, but it is a possibility for a solution, because if there's a way to bring money into a place, these companies are going to find a way to create that resource that they need, I guess.
Right. So a really cynical way of looking at it is that the Texas power grid wasn't excessively motivated to upgrade its systems to like save people's lives, but it will definitely be excessively motivated to upgrade its power systems in order for Texas to make a shit ton of money mining coin.
Yeah.
Sorry, humanity. The well-being of citizens is just not that high up on the chain of profit margin and that sort of thing. And I just saw a meme recently that I've been chewing on all week. We are nothing more than peasants with Wi-Fi.
I saw that.
Yeah. Norm Goodwin is wondering. So Elon buys Bitcoin with USD and then sells it for USD. It seems as if USD to Bitcoin is analogous to the gold standard. Like, is the Bitcoin relationship the same as the gold standard used to be? Currently,
I mean, that's I wouldn't say. I would say more like stocks. I mean, here's how I break it down. Imagine you buy a city block, in the 1800s in New York City. You don't need to sell it. In this case, right now, because we're transitioning, Elon did that to prove a point for his company. Normally, what rich people do, very wealthy companies and very wealthy people in general, is they buy assets and they keep those assets and borrow against those assets. The bank then supplies them the money, and then they pay things off. And this is kind of where I personally am finding information that I had never really thought about before. Like, most wealthy people, they keep their investments and they're not liquid. They're earning from those and then borrowing against them over time if they need to, right?
To create more wealth assets.
Yeah. So and the way that it was described to me was that, like, if an asset performs well, right, then you keep it. And then if that asset stops performing, then you sell it, right?
Right.
And if you find a better asset, then you borrow against other assets and buy that new asset.
So, like, to put it in the real world, like, say you have an apartment, say you were able to buy a duplex out of college, and you live in part of it, and then somebody else lives in the other part of it, and the rent that they pay you to live there means that you don't have to pay money to live in your apartment. So you're able to save up money to buy yourself a house, and now you have a duplex that has two people paying you rent, and then eventually you can get a loan against. The bank is like, it seems as though you have a duplex, so you are a reliable person to give a loan to. And then you go buy another duplex, and now you have four apartments giving you money. Like, so that's like the real world version of the Bitcoin.
And then you would never sell those properties.
No.
But until maybe that college closes its doors, and now there's no people coming to town, and there's no renters. That's when you would sell. You'd want to get rid of it as you see that thing happening.
Right before.
Yeah. And so what Bitcoin is being called is the apex asset. There's nothing better on this planet that could give you a better return on your money in the history of the last 10 years. What could you have put $100 in 10 years ago that would now be worth millions of dollars?
Right.
Nothing. So and I know that is not like it hurts instantly.
It hurts me so much.
Let me describe something to you that I think is really, really interesting to understand about the market. Not everybody, many people that bought or mined Bitcoin in 2009, most of them got rid of it.
Because they didn't know.
Right. Imagine you had 10,000 Bitcoin in 2009, and it goes, you paid nothing for it. You mined it, and it goes to $100 per Bitcoin.
Woo-wee.
Woo, I'm selling. I'm a millionaire, whatever. And then like in 5 years later, it's worth $12,000, and you're like, what the hell? Like,
right. You're like, oh my God.
And because the market goes up and down in such big spikes, it's, if you look back, there have been times that it's gone from, like $100 up to like $700, and then drop back down to like $150. So the people who are on that boat, on that ride, they're like, oh man, I just missed everything.
I think that's one of the best pieces of advice is like, don't look at what it's doing today or this week or this month. Like, look at what it's doing over the last 3 months, and then what was it doing last year over these last 3 months?
Exactly. And there are people who are looking at it hourly and going, oh my gosh, it's down 3%. Now, oh my God, now it's up 2%.
I have a friend who, his son got a hot tip about SafeMoon and dropped $10,000 and watched it go to $1 million.
Yeah, that happens.
And then it dropped again, and he managed to pull out $300,000 from his $10,000 investment. But he feels like he lost $700,000.
He feels like he lost $700,000.
He only lost $700,000 because he sold. If he would have waited 5 years, it may be worth millions and millions of dollars, right?
He still has some of it, but he definitely
cashed out
some money. Yeah.
So another reason that that the wealthy don't sell assets is because then you don't pay capital gains.
Right.
And that's the thing. The U.S. government sees this as an asset, so it's taxed on capital gains, which is taxed pretty high. But if you never sell it and you only borrow against it, it's actually a negative tax because you get to write that off, whatever you borrowed. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. I'm not a tax guy, but like I know that there are benefits to having loans that help you in the tax world versus selling something and taking a profit and paying tax on it.
Yeah, I remember Boyce Brown, friend of the show. He wrote an article a few years back about how Bitcoin was building its legitimacy by filling a vacuum that was created when marijuana became legal in a state, but you couldn't bank that money because it was still federally illegal. So Bitcoin came in to fill the void where the U.S. government was like, you can't do it. And then they said, well, we're going to do it this way. That was, in addition to the Silk Road drugs, the marijuana story I know that was a big problem for a friend of mine that had a dispensary in Denver. He had all this money, but it was just cash money, and he couldn't put it in the bank. He didn't know what the hell to do with it.
What?
It worked out well for him. Thank you, government. I mean, he should be thanking them.
Yeah.
Right. So Joseph says the best part about cryptocurrency is the markets are always open. The worst part about cryptocurrency is the markets are always open.
Yeah, that's true. Some people, I think the people that come from the stock market world are definitely frazzled by that.
Because the stock market way of doing things was you buy some when it's low, you sell it when it's high. You buy some when it's low, you sell it and you kind of do this buy-sell thing, which to me sounds like a big burden when it comes time to do your taxes.
Well, it depends on.
That's like the stock market way of doing it, but the crypto way of doing it is different.
Well, actually, I was actually just about to bring this up anyway. This is good timing. There are like multiple ways to invest in digital assets. You know, you can either just be the simplest and easiest is to just be an investor, which is it's the least amount of work, it's the least risk. It's just buying something and holding it long term. So you're going to buy it and you're going to say, I'm going to see where it's at in 5 years.
Yeah.
You know, you don't even have to look at it. It's fine. The next one after that is be a trader. So they have day traders, they have swing traders, and that's just a matter of like, are you going to be buying and selling something within a matter of hours, or are you going to be buying and selling it over the matter of a couple of months or weeks? And that's much more complicated. Like there are people who are professional traders who are making very bad decisions because it doesn't operate like the traditional market. And there are some things that do, but you have to understand a lot of the technical analysis. You need to buy with an intention of selling it for a profit, and you're just doing that over and over. So it's just like constantly taking risk every time.
And then you have to pay taxes on any money you make.
Right.
Rather than just compiling an asset that you can take loans against.
Yeah. So their goal then is to make enough money that's worth it to them. So I don't see that as being a great place unless you're doing really big trades. Like if you're doing large enough trades and you're doing it smart enough to be big enough gains, then it makes sense. And the last area of this that I would say is like being a speculator, which is exactly what your friend did, Dark, whenever he found SafeMoon, which was at a very early stage, and said, I'm going to invest money into it. It's high risk, but it's also high reward. But it's literally gambling because you know very little about that company or who those people are. And this is one of the negatives of the crypto world is that there have been scams in the past. And there rug pulls and all these other things where it's like people, because it's really easy to create a coin or a token, I should say. It doesn't take a lot of technology or know-how to create it. There are YouTube videos that'll show you how to do it in 20 minutes, and it costs like $300, right?
Wow.
Yeah. What we want to do is we want to take.
We have an idea.
We want to take $100 and put it into some highly speculative coin just for the sake of the show, and see what happens week by week.
Yeah.
I've been reading around there's a new dog in the fight.
Oh.
It's the Shiba.
Oh, snap.
And is that going to be a hot coin because it's a cute dog? I mean, the internet is weird.
I will say you're a little late.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Is that Shiba Inu?
Shiba Inu?
It's just the Shiba. I don't know if that's short for the Shiba. It's from that dog meme.
Oh, I think that's Dogecoin.
No, Shiba's another one. It's a new one.
Oh, okay. Maybe it is. That one I don't know anything about. But
it's on the exchange now. So
we're literally talking about gambling. So.
Yes, exactly. But I'm looking at people who don't know, like myself, who don't know anything about finance, and you're hearing about crypto or you're hearing about digital assets. Only if you listen to our show, apparently.
Oh, well.
And then, somebody's like, oh, Dogecoin was a thing, and here's a cute dog. I'm going to back this dog.
Totally going to get some.
I can see that being a weird thing. And in not reading the white paper, not knowing anything about it, There's a bunch of people with a few $100s they want to throw at something.
Yeah. What have you heard about Satoshi, Damon?
Satoshi?
The Satoshi coin.
Oh, okay, so Satoshi is not a coin.
Oh.
Bitcoin can be broken up into satoshis. So
That's
they say
the fictional name of the guy that.
Satoshis. So it's basically like you could consider it like a penny, but it's any denomination of Bitcoin under 1 is Satoshi, like 0.000001 Satoshi sort of thing, like.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I want to, I guess I should clarify right now. We talked about Bitcoin as being a store of value. When you get into these coins, you just mentioned the white paper, which is like the technical breakdown of what that coin is saying it's going to do.
I learned that from you, so.
What happened?
I learned that from you, so yeah. Just gotta act like I knew stuff.
So whenever you get into, there are these things called meme coins, which is what Dogecoin is. Dogecoin was created as a joke intentionally. Its creator came out and specifically said, hey, check this joke out. It is a copy of the code of Bitcoin. But what they did was they changed the number from 21 million to like, I don't know, a huge number or infinite or whatever. And it was not supposed to go anywhere. He walked away from it saying like, dude, this was a joke. I don't want anything to do with it. And so as far as I know, there are no developers working on it, but the reason it's gotten so big is because it has grown a community around the fact that it is a meme, right?
Right. That's why I'm talking about the Shiba.
Such currency, very dog.
Yeah, Joseph Miller said he's got 18 million of the Shibas.
That's right. Watch out. Watch out.
So,
yeah, I want to find the most highly speculative coin we can to put the $100 into for the sake of the show.
Yeah.
Well, then in that case, what we should do for fun then, and maybe this can be a part of the show, or maybe you can do this afterwards, is I should take you through CoinMarketCap, which is a website that shows you the coins in order of their market cap. The market cap is just the number of coins in circulation times the amount of that coin at that second. So that tells you how much money is being invested into that coin at that time. So Bitcoin is at like over 700 billion or something like that. And once you get down below like 100 million, you're in really dicey territory. Either these people are not going anywhere or they're just about to blow up. So.
Norm Goodwin is wondering, where does the Bitcoin value come from?
It comes from trust. It comes from
confidence.
Confidence.
Some kind of confidence.
Like the fact
like
that
the dollar.
anyone paid $35,000 for that coin is the. Let me put it to you this way. I personally am a believer in this space. Like, doesn't matter what coin I go into. I think our financial system is old and it needs a change. If I continue to keep my money in that space, then I'm voting for that. I have confidence in that. If I take my money out of that space and put it into this digital space, I am then putting my vote towards that. And I
voting with your money.
I'm voting with I'm putting my money where my vote is. I don't know if that's right. And I don't think that people think about it this way, but it's just like, it's that same way with anything. Like if you go and buy the cheapest crap from Walmart, then you're voting for the cheapest crap to continue to be made,
Right.
There's I think I got the term wrong on Monday, but we talked about U.S. foreign policy and the petrodollar, which emerged. The idea of the petrodollar emerged whenever Nixon decided gold didn't need to be tied so much to the dollar. There was global chaos, and then the petrodollar, oil became gold in terms of, and then the U.S. basically strong-armed everybody into selling their oil in U.S. dollars. And most of the wars that we've been fighting in the Middle East is fighting people who decided maybe we should sell oil in the euro.
And
then, which then degraded confidence in the dollar. So we had to go bomb Iraq, and we had to go bomb all the. We had to go put sanctions on Venezuela and all these oil-producing companies, Iran. These oil-producing companies.
Nobody's allowed to sell oil in their local currencies. They can only do it with dollars, which keeps the confidence in the dollar.
Right.
So the dollar is also a fiat currency, just like Bitcoin.
So much of our U.S. foreign policy has been about keeping confidence in the dollar high by bombing brown people. So this is another version of that, but maybe we can do it without bombing people. I don't know, but this is getting into some people's interest when you come up with a new currency and you could make the other banking system start sweating. I can understand why people who invented this are invisible.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I kind of lost my train of thought. We got stuck in
where does the value of Bitcoin come from? Mark French has a comment here also to Norm. The idea of the value of Amazon, Apple, or commodities is based on anything. The idea that the value of Amazon, Apple, or other commodities is based on anything other than people's perceptions and government subsidies and monopolies is also fallacious. So like the value of Amazon is because people give them money and confidence. And so it shall be with Bitcoin.
It's just it's a con game in the definition of the word confidence.
Yeah.
It's a confidence game.
That's where con comes from.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I've had money in savings, and you're saying it might be better in a stable digital asset.
It will be better because we'll make 8% interest instead of 0.2% interest.
Well, that's a whole other thing. I think we're going to have to make this
an ongoing series.
We do a lot of stuff around drug policy, around religion, around politics, and I think the post-Orthodox version of our economy and money is something that we need to be revisiting because I think we are in a transitional state. Mm-hmm. I don't think that the digital assets are going anywhere. My ancient Judeo-Christian Old Testament Bible brain that I was indoctrinated with does think of like, well, what if somebody said it earlier, what if there's a solar flare and damages all the equipment?
Right.
Does that just fizzle out digital currency, or how does that work? Like, what if, like, where is it?
Where are your dollars?
Assets?
Where are your dollars, Dark?
And what happens if where they are
goes
is
away,
damaged? Like,
yeah. my kind of argument to that is that like for the blockchain is storing this data in hundreds of millions of computers around the world. So it would have to knock out everything in order to knock out everything, right? And
that
the
feels
same
pretty safe.
That idea, like I think if the world's power's knocked out, our problem is not money.
It's how to make soap.
Yeah, it's how to eat and how to not starve to death.
Have fire.
And the solution is not going to be gold that is being stored in some Fort Knox somewhere that's not helpful to anyone. So that also is not the answer. So I think that there will have to be, I'm sure that there is some form of backup to our world that is not on the surface, to our world computer system that is somehow stored somewhere else.
Yeah,
I don't know the answer.
I watched a video that is probably stored under the Denver International Airport.
Everything.
Is stored under the Denver International Airport. If you've never gone down the rabbit hole of conspiracy videos about the Denver International Airport, I highly recommend it.
Absolutely.
Just put in Denver International Airport conspiracy and just start scrolling through and click on anything. It's great.
So Joe was laughing at me earlier because I was like, how do I put the money onto my crypto app? And he said I sound like his grandparents.
Yeah.
And I've met his grandparents, and they're very nice people. But how do I put money onto my crypto? Because
I have $100.
Set it up.
Put it in a digital asset. How do I?
How? Because they're like, here's some routing numbers. Give it to your bank. And I don't know where on my bank to say, hold these routing numbers and send money through them. Like,
Yeah. So every app in the US, every app that is accessible from a US based company has to adhere to know your customer KYC rules, and that's because they have to answer to the IRS, right? So it's a good thing in my mind, because it's basically I don't know how to put it. It's for me. I don't need to be anonymous to store my money. So first of all, whenever you get an app, they're gonna ask you.
That's because you're not trying to overthrow the government.
Yeah, I'm not trying to overthrow the government. Not right now.
Yeah.
So they're gonna ask you to do some crazy things like put in your social security number and
done that.
Take a photo of your face and show us a photo ID. And some of them have you like make a video of you holding your ID because they're like trying to stick to be, like
super safe
person. And that's going to feel really weird, but as long as you trust the company that you're doing it through, and there are a few that are at the top, Coinbase, Voyager, crypto.com, BlockFi, Celsius, there are some others, but if you stick with those, then you shouldn't be afraid to give them your information if you're a normal person, I would say.
Yeah, I'm not afraid.
I'm not a normal person, but...
Well, then you're screwed, Dark. The next thing they're going to have you do is they're going to have you connect your bank to what is their app, but it's technically at their bank. They have to establish a bank in the U.S. I believe it's in the U.S. In order for the two banks to talk, right? And what they're giving you is the information of their bank. They're saying, here, plug this into your bank and either use it for a wire transfer, which will cost X amount of dollars depending on your bank, or you can connect it through, there's some other way to do it. I don't remember what it's called, but that'll be a set. Every bank's going to have a different place that's hidden. I don't know exactly where it is. I would say if you can't find it on your website, it'll be near the wire transfer section. If you can't find it in there, you're going to have to call your bank and just have them walk you through it, which is a real pain in the butt.
I heard the wire transfer is more expensive than ACH transfer.
It is. I would not do a wire transfer, and I would do the ACH.
We have a banker. She's nice. She's.
We just have to get in our car and drive down there, which seems dumb when I'm doing money in the cloud on my phone.
Right. But she gives treats to our dogs when we go to the bank. So.
Yeah. Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
But the thing to point out here is that this is, first of all, it's the first time you set up your account is the first time that you have to worry about this. After that, it's connected. You don't have to do this ever again, right?
Yeah.
But you may have to call your bank every time you send money there, because sometimes it gets blocked by the bank because they're like, nope, this is fraud. This isn't real. This isn't a real place. There are some apps that the bank's like, nope, not real, but it is.
Right. But what I can do is like call them and be like, okay, I'm going to do a large wire. I'm going to do a $5,000 wire transfer or whatever, ACH transfer. And they'll be like, all right, we'll set that up for today. And then you send it. And now you have the money in your app and you can use it to buy whatever you want to buy.
Exactly. It's really easy. The other thing I wanted to point out about this is like, we are at the very beginning of all this. 5 years ago, these apps didn't exist. And in this 5 years, all of this stuff is transitioning. I promise you in the next year or two, 3, 4, 5 years, it's going to be like literally super easy. They're going to continue to make this as easy as possible. It's going to become more and more user friendly, but they're fighting with the technology of the bank, the technology of the crypto. They're trying to figure all this stuff out. So I just say, give everybody a little bit of room and eventually it won't be a problem anymore.
Okay, so I'm on my crypto.com app,
okay,
which is where I can buy Dogecoin.
Right.
Is Shiba on there?
I don't know. Let me look.
Usually, there is another thing that I wanted to point out about putting money into these. There is a way on some apps where you connect where you connect your debit card through a secured platform called Plaid,
Card.
or there's a couple of different ones. And then you don't have to do anything to your bank after that. Once your card is connected, anytime you want to purchase the crypto, it'll just go through your debit card.
Mm-hmm.
And that just depends on the app. So some of those.
Okay. So transfer USD. The only options on crypto.com are ACH, push, and wire transfer. So
yeah,
I guess that's all you get.
Yeah, crypto.com is definitely one of the ones that I personally have had to call Bank of America every single time I've tried to make a purchase. And the problem with that is that if it's not during their business hours, you have to wait.
Right.
But once you turn it on, it's open for a 24-hour period.
Okay.
So if I know I'm making a purchase that day, I'll call them in the morning and then just do it whenever I want.
But again, you can, if you have a lump sum, you can put your lump sum in and then save it in the wallet or put it in a stable coin, which you can earn interest on.
Have we covered stable coin yet?
Right.
No.
Well, okay. I'm 15 more minutes and then we're cutting it off before my brain falls out of my ears.
You want to know something?
Yeah.
By the way, I have been kind of going through my slides trying to keep information in order. I probably got about another 15 slides left. So we're going to have to keep going, Ainsley. I don't need 15 minutes. Okay. A stable coin is very simple. It is just a coin that is locked, or what they say, pegged to the US dollar. So it doesn't go up or down in price. So if you put your money into that, you're never going to like pull it out in 5 years and it'll be worth 5 times more or whatever the numbers are. The reason that those exist is because in the beginning, you could only buy Bitcoin. You could only buy some coins with Bitcoin, right? And eventually they decided, okay, we're going to make these other coins that are pegged to the dollar that don't go up and down, that you can, like USDT, which is Tether, or USDC, which is the USD coin. Those are meant to be intermediaries between your cash and purchasing a coin of some sort, right? And the good thing about that is that a lot of these apps will offer you an interest rate of anywhere between like 6 and 12% just for keeping your money in one of those stable coins.
So even if I haven't decided what digital asset I'd like to invest in long term, it's still better to have my savings in a stable coin in a crypto wallet than to have it at Bank of America where it's not earning any interest.
0 interest, and yes, lots of problems for sure.
Yeah.
I would also say that because it is these are all considered an asset, and you are going to pay tax on any profit. Something that I'd like to point out to everybody that took me a long time to understand was that if I put $1,000 into any coin, let's say Bitcoin, and it goes up to, it doubles or whatever. So now I have 2,000 in there. If I only pull out my original $1,000, I'm not taxed on that at all. You're only taxed on your profit, which means that if you put in 1,000, it doubles. You take out your original 1,000. Now you're playing with house money. You basically just hold that Bitcoin as long as you want, right? So that's part of a different strategy. But the same thing with stable coins, because you're never actually making a profit, you can leave it there. If you're earning interest, that can be taxed. I think that's taxed as an income, though.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure. You have to look at the tax law on there, or talk to an attorney or whatever. But, but
the interest on your stable coin.
Yeah. So if you're earning interest, I think it's taxed as income, but I'm not certain. But yeah, for me, it only makes sense if I have any amount of money to store it in a stable coin or to invest it into crypto of some sort, a digital asset or some.
Norm is saying and Norm's working through this struggle that like all of us are kind of working through and moving from the known to the unknown, but we know that when we invest in Amazon stocks, we're basically going into business with Amazon in a sense. Who are we going into business with Bitcoin? I think it's tough switching from the known and the tangible and the quote unquote real world version of stock investing to the seemingly not at all even in the real world at all version of stock investing.
Brick and mortar to digital.
Yeah, a really good. I'm glad that point was brought up. So Bitcoin is an outlier in some regards. It doesn't have anybody behind it, but it does have a history. So you're basically buying into the history if you buy into it, which has gone up about 200% every year for the last 10 years. But with all the other coins, especially the top five, the top coins have teams behind them because they are technology. They are being developed. They are being promoted and pushed. You can look at them as tech companies. I think that's one thing that I think is easier. If you look at these, it's tech companies in the stock world. It's much easier because they're
investing in a tech company, and they're doing more than just holding imaginary coins in the internet somewhere.
Yeah.
What else are they doing?
All that information is public knowledge too. So, and you can, like, Ethereum is the second top coin. And it is, if Bitcoin is digital gold, Ethereum is more like digital oil. And in that it operates a bunch of other coins and technology on top of it. So it is creating a base layer, which is essentially the Internet 2.0, and is creating a space that other technologies can build on top of. So imagine the Internet before any websites were built. Now each of these tokens represents a website. And so the team behind Ethereum has been here for a long time, and they are trying very hard to evolve that technology and push it. And you can watch interviews, you can listen, you can read their white papers, you can see what they're doing with all of the attempts of what they're trying to do with their technology. So, when you're getting into the space, it's really important to do your own research and begin to dig specifically into whichever token or coin that you're looking into. So,
what is an explosion of SPACs?
An explosion of what? Stacks?
SPACs, SPACS. Mark French and Norm Goodwin are going back and forth in the comments about this, like, but what if it crashes, right? And then to me, it's like, well, but theoretically, any asset people invest in could crash and you wouldn't be able to get your money back. Yeah. Like, I know there are some really safe ones, like moms are always going to be buying stuff on Amazon, but like anything that you're technically investing in, confidence can go up and down and asset viability can go up and down. And then Mark French says, what happened in 2008 or Enron or WorldCom or WeWork? Why do you think there's an explosion of SPACS? I don't know what SPACS is. Do you know?
I don't know that term. I think I've heard that recently. I don't know. I think it's some sort of
special purpose acquisition companies.
Yes.
Okay. And a special purpose acquisition company, also known as a blank check company, is a shell corporation listed on the stock exchange with the purpose of acquiring a private company, thus making it public without going through the traditional initial, oh my God, this is like exactly what they're doing with our voting. This is black money in politics. It's super PACs. It's a secret place where investors can do things that nobody gets to know about.
I think Mark French, that is a really good topic to dive into in a separate conversation.
Yeah, we're not going to cover all of the digital asset world in one show.
Yeah.
Today we wanted to, I appreciate you coming on and giving this a sort of walkthrough. And I think as we gain more understanding and our audience, the audience that is interested in this new terrain, gain more understanding, we can get more specific in future episodes.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll tell everybody. Like right now, we are in a down portion. We're going sideways in the market. I don't care if anybody gets into Bitcoin or whatever, but just write down the price for today or take a look at what the price is today and check it out in December and see
how you feel then.
Yeah, see how you feel then. But also the other thing is just look at the history. You can see every transaction, but I wouldn't go that far. But you can
see the graph chart.
You can see the graph chart for the last 10 years. It is in a gradual, steady uphill over the course of the long term. So, I have a ton more that I would love to share because I feel like I don't want to leave anybody with like a half a picture, but
Sure.
it's not possible. So.
Oh my God, no. And I mean, this is the more conversations I have about digital assets, the longer I'm able to talk and think about it before my brain starts melting. But it's still like just pretend times in the pretend zone about pretend stuff to me a lot, and it's hard to kind of hold on to. And I get that it's difficult, and so
I'm trying to dig into it because I've had the same feeling about money. Like,
it's all fake.
Once I understood the fiat currency idea, I was like, it was hard for me to care because it all seemed like gambling to me. The stock market seemed like gambling. I got angry. I mean, that's the thing is I think the Book of the Subgenius changed the way I felt about money. If you're not familiar with the Book of the Subgenius, but there was a line in there they said where the conspiracy or the con or the pinks or the norms or the whoever, the overlords, the oligarchs, simultaneously make us crave and hate money.
Mm-hmm.
We want it, and then we're resentful that we don't have it, and we're resentful of people who do have it. And so it makes a really messy headspace. And we're not taught about money. Like in public school, we weren't taught about
the psychology
finance
of
or money or anything like that.
Taught to work hard and save your money.
Save your money, whatever.
Listen, I wanted to make a direct comment to Mark French. I have watched your video response to Dark and Ainsley's show 212, I think it was, and I have answers and information and comments on all of your questions. I just didn't know how to get into it here without you being on here asking the questions, but that's one thing. So I would love to talk to you on another show or however we do this, Mark, but I appreciate your thoughts. And then the last thing I think I really want to say so that everybody understands is that we right now are in an interesting history point. Like 5 years ago, this was not the case. We did not have what we have 5 years ago. And there are people who invested 5 years ago who are very wealthy right now, but they didn't know half the stuff that we know right now. They had a lot of things to fear, and there was a lot of uncertainty, and there was no way to know what the future was going to hold. But right now, large companies are putting billions of dollars into Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other top coins, and there is a transition. And imagine right now, we have less than 2% of the world's population and companies putting money into this space right now. And imagine when that number gets to 10% or 60%. If this continues to go down the path that I think that it will, this is the hugest movement transition from one financial space into another that has ever happened and probably will ever happen in, well, first of all, in our lifetimes for sure, but in human history.
Is this your phone?
It's somebody. Yeah, it's my phone.
Okay.
and this is basically
He's like a stock trader's office.
I know. It was just perfect.
Yeah, hold on. I'll tell him I'll be right there.
Wait.
And this window that's happening right now is only going to happen for the next 5 to 10 years. After that, all of the things that we see as risk will probably be gone because it will be the norm. But that means all of the opportunities
will
that you
also
have
be gone.
Will also be gone.
Yeah.
So in my mind,
there are too many things in life where you have to make the leap before it seems that's what a leap is. Like you have to make the leap before you know whether it's going to work or not.
Yeah, and there's a really big thing that's happening where I hear the term a lot, life-changing money, right? There is the life-changing money is only happening for people below a certain economic level, right? For me personally, I've put everything that I have into this because if I'm right then it is life-changing money. And if I'm wrong, I'm just as broke as I was last year. Who cares?
Right. I think that's one of the things that I like most. The more that I learn about digital assets, these new digital assets, is that it's investing for poor people. Like you can get in with any amount that you have, and it might make your life better.
Yeah,
and it won't make your life worse.
I had some interesting folks in my car when I was driving limousines in Los Angeles, and I had this lady who was a personal assistant to Edward de Bono, which is a character you should look up on. He's like a Hogwarts character. He's a genius. But he wrote a book, and this lady says, just take 10% of your money and put it in savings. And I'm like, I don't have enough money already.
I have no extras.
She's like, but if you take 10% out, you'll figure out how to do the 90%. Just start doing it. And I never found a way to do it until about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And I started just taking 10% and putting it aside.
You just pretend you don't have that 10%.
I just pretended I didn't have it.
Yeah.
And then suddenly I had a savings account. And then it took me like years before I was willing to try out the experiment, and I'm really surprised at how useful it was. And so I'm looking at this idea of digital assets the same way, like putting a little bit in on some experiments. I could just as easily blow that on a few drinks at the bar.
Yeah.
And so I don't have $1 million to risk. I have $50, $100.
Yeah.
To just understand how the thing works.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to overcome my own money trauma.
Unstructure the norms
that I was raised with. Because my whole childhood was just stress between the parents about money.
Yeah.
Like most of my psyche is built on stress about money between my parents.
Yep.
And so I'm trying to enter into the new territory with a little more fresh eyeballs than entering into a really like sullied space of the default world finance.
Yeah.
So it feels a bit like a fresh start for me, for sure.
Right.
I feel like I am learning how to think differently, partially because in the past, investing my $100 into a stock that goes up 7% in a year didn't make any sense. So I'll have an extra $7. Great. You know?
Yeah.
I feel like the crypto market definitely has a compressed feel to it. So you can actually see how it all transitions in a shorter amount of time and make more sense of it as just an individual, you know, even if you're not investing, just looking at that space and understanding how money flows in and out of a space is interesting, you know? Yeah.
Cool.
Well, I'm looking forward to doing this again.
Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your thoughts. You seem really grounded about it, and that's helpful in a stressful new zone.
Yeah.
A whole new
I'm glad to help. It really is my personal passion at this point because I see the potential here to at least share it with other people. I'm going to feel like a jerk if I'm a millionaire in a few years and I didn't at least tell a few friends, right? So.
Yeah. I completely get that. Yeah, no, that's kind of what got me into it, but I was a little bit more selfish as I was kind of like, I'm starting to hear about this so much that I'm beginning to smell the blood in the water that if I don't get involved in 5 years, I'm going to feel really dumb. I was kind of like, okay, it's time to squeeze another slot into the pie chart of my day for spending time learning about cryptocurrency.
Well, I could have got in 2012 because, again, friends were saying, hey, this thing.
Yeah.
And I could have thrown, I never thought that I had money to do it with, but I could have thrown in $100 and been fine right now.
Right. Yeah. Weird.
I could have done that. But
if
there was an entry point, which is like having to deal with the dark web or get a Tor server or like all this stuff where I was like, I don't even know how to, so I just didn't do it. Yeah. And that barrier to entry is still there.
Yeah.
Because it's not just, here's my money, now I have a Bitcoin. There's a lot of steps between,
and each step can be tiring and exhausting, especially if you don't have full confidence that it's really a good idea or not.
So I still feel like even though it's easier now to do what we're talking about, it's still, there's a barrier to entry, which is the ability to navigate this entirely new terrain.
Mm-hmm.
Which is another proof that you're not late, that we're still early.
Right.
It's still difficult.
It's still hard. Yeah.
It's still difficult, which means that it means that you're still early enough that a little bit will be a lot in transition, I guess.
All right, Damon, 3 minutes. Final thoughts, or less.
Final thoughts.
It doesn't have to be 3 minutes.
I have so much. I think that if you find any of this interesting, you should begin researching, and that means, you know,
where do you begin?
Do you have a favorite YouTube guy?
I have several. Yeah, I have several.
So what you can do at the end of the video, once it's up on our Facebook page, if it would be really helpful if you would go and just share a few links.
Yep, I'll do that.
And put the name of the YouTube video in the link also, so that you know,
with a disclaimer saying that you don't owe anybody anything for sharing this information.
Right.
You're not trying to get anybody to do anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So watching, don't just watch one YouTube video. That's not research. Watch 10 YouTube videos on the same subject and piecemeal together what it is that's being said over and over, you know, or read articles if that's your thing. I do read articles, but I don't enjoy it as much as because a lot of these.
This has always been a problem in our friendship. Is I prefer articles and you prefer videos, and ne'er the twain shall read each other's or see each other's stuff. We have a long text stream of things we've shared with each other that he hasn't read and I haven't watched.
And I would say, just if you're beginning this, that to at least just look at Bitcoin and Ethereum. Those are the two top coins. They have been around the longest. Do some research on like the coin market cap, maybe look at some apps, watch some YouTube videos on which apps you think are best. There's tons and tons of information, and at least give it a chance. At least
do a little bit every day, not like a ton. Don't think you're going to just do it all in 3 hours, because your brain will start melting.
Oi.
Right. It is a lot of information, for sure.
Yeah.
And I would say that for me, it is important to at least look at this from a historical standpoint, to say I feel like you're definitely going to remember this point in history, and you know, whenever you're talking to your grandkids and being like, yeah, there was this time when Bitcoin came out and I said, screw that stuff, you know.
Well, you said it on the video. We'll have to earmark that and check back in December.
Yes.
And I'm gonna for the sake of the show, I'm gonna put $100 into
something.
Shiba.
Shiba?
Just randomly. Shiba! I'm just gonna be a random investor, Yahoo style.
We'll just sprinkle a little bit of monies in several different places and see what happens.
Why
not?
Why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
Snack
this was
money.
a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you, Damon. This was great.
Yeah.
Appreciate
thank
it.
you very much. And I'm interested in helping however you guys see fit in the future, if that's another video or what.
Yeah.
And thank you to all of our watchers and participators and all of our lurkers. We just met some more lurkers last night, which is lovely. I love wandering around town and meeting lurkers. We appreciate you, even though you're not saying anything.
Yeah, thanks for being a part of the show. Do we have a show next week?
So Monday, we're going to be diving back into the history of the drug war, and it's...
The drugs won, by the way. Spoiler alert.
So we're going to... I like that.
It's true.
Yeah, we should make it a t-shirt. Okay, we said it here first. You can't
no,
have it.
I stole it from somebody else.
Oh, no.
I haven't seen that t-shirt, though, so it's obviously not getting spread around like it should. So yeah, we're going to go into the history of the U.S. drug war. We're going to talk about scheduling of drugs. For instance, a Schedule 1 drug is a drug that has zero medical value and is highly addictive. And marijuana is on that schedule, and it is neither highly addictive and also does actually have a lot of medical values. So we need to mess up our whole system and restructure it. And there are some processes that other countries have gone through to decriminalize and introduce actually harm reductive education rather than just abstinence education, because we see how well that works with sex ed.
We don't have to guess about it. We can look at things that happened.
Yeah.
This country said
other
maybe
countries
not
have
so
done
much.
It. Yes.
And then something happened, and we can look at it
and then
learn from it.
Thursday, our guest is going to be her royal canna chef, Krista Kelly herself. She's going to talk to us about her experiences pre and post marijuana prohibition, and share some fun recipes like cannabis cotton candy.
Ooh.
Yeah. And then the week after that is Harold Cranberry, and we don't know what we're talking about with Harold yet.
And I think we may have a couple of special shows in between.
Yeah.
I want to do an
We
interview.
have so many other topics to talk about, guys. We're excited.
Yeah. So thanks for participating in the show. Tell your friends. The website's coming soon.
Yeah, and please like our YouTube channel. It's very easy. It doesn't send you any spam. And if we get 100 likes, we can make a custom URL. We have like 6,000 friends between us. So some of y'all bitches like our YouTube.
Yeah.
Thank you, Damon. We appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks.